Good afternoon, and good afternoon here at the OBX Wave Report. I am Robert Scribbler, your wave reporter on all things waves, weather, climate, and beach lifestyle, and your local activist here for clean energy and coastal defense. Let's all be activists here on the Outer Banks for mass deploying clean energy, wind, water, solar, electric vehicles, getting away from fossil fuels so that we will still have an Outer Banks to enjoy for this generation and for the next and for the ones to follow. And for today on the Outer Banks, it is a beautiful day. It is a little cool with temperatures in the upper 40s and lower 50s. The clouds are clearing, the blue sky is appearing, the sun is shining down this afternoon and this early evening. The waves and the ocean, well, the ocean is turning into this beautiful blue green slate of glass, and the 2 to 3 foot and 2 to 4 foot swells are rolling in and producing their classic OBX barrels. And it's just a gorgeous, wonderful Sunday here on the Outer Banks. And looking at the NOAA satellite shot, we can see that the clouds are clearing out, although we do have a storm system gathering here in the central US, which is expected to produce some severe weather over the next 24 hours. And we do still have that stationary front that's lingering across the US South. And we've got a stormy area that is moving in across the Rockies that's going to combine with the moisture flowing up from the Gulf and that stationary front to produce the next bout of severe weather for the central US moving on to the north and east. Out west in California, the storms are shifting off more toward the north, with the central mountains of California bearing the brunt of it right now with blizzard warnings. And for the coming week, storms are expected to shift more toward Northern California on northward through Oregon and into Washington. Looking at the National Weather Service radar, you can see the remnant small craft advisories here along the Outer Banks, and a few stray showers associated with that stalled frontal system, some more severe weather starting to get organized here north and west of Texas. And you can see those storms are running into the US West Coast with the blizzard warnings up for the mountains of central and northern California. And large, heavy snows expected over the next 24 to 48 hours through central and northern California. It's worth noting that the severe weather has cleared out of the Southern California area as the focus for the storms shifts on northward. So those of you in Southern California are going to get a bit of a respite from the severe weather. And the NOAA quantitative prediction forecast also showing us that stormy weather will tend to focus more toward the north and west for the US West Coast, and that we will tend to have stormy weather from the Mississippi Valley on eastward toward the Appalachians, so between the Mississippi and the Appalachians roughly, with some severe weather focusing in on the Ohio River Valley as well. And we still have a tendency for nor'easters to form off the US East Coast. Getting down to the waves today, I do have some reports for you guys, and I'm going to look mainly at the east-facing beaches, starting with Jeanette's Pier. I did get out to the Loggerhead Beach access just north of Jeanette's Pier here, and got some videos for you guys of what appeared to be 2 to 5 foot waves, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe 2 to 4 foot, although there were some large waves breaking offshore, so I do wonder if they were popping up to around the 4 to 5 foot range. Nonetheless, right now the wave monitors are mainly showing 2 to 3 foot, maybe 2 to 4 foot waves in some locations. Right now at Jeanette's Pier, wave conditions are in the range of 2 to 3 feet. with a primary swell coming in at 6 seconds and a secondary swell coming in at 11 seconds. Winds are very gentle out of the southwest at 7 miles per hour, and that's an offshore flow. Air temperatures right now in the range of 46 degrees, getting chilly as we get into evening time here. Ocean water temperature is a bit warmer. With winds coming more gentle out of the west, it's allowed some of those warmer waters from the offshore to start to creep in. And so we're seeing ocean water temperatures in the range of 53 degrees Fahrenheit at Jeanette's Pier. We are in the range of the lowest water temperatures that we will typically see during the year when we're in the climatologically low water temperature period for Nag's Head for parts of Hatteras Island. And generally what we would expect to see is that the ocean water temperatures would start to warm up south and then proceed on northward. And it looks like we might be starting to get into that range, but we'll see. The ocean water temperatures can swing back and forth late February into early March. And nonetheless, though, we are kind of waiting for that longer period trend of warming to assert itself. And with ocean water temperatures in the 53-degree range at Jeanette's Pier, it does look like we might be at the start of that. I don't want to jump the gun or jump conclusions, but we may be at the start of warming waters, which is just nice. It's nice to hear that. So in any case, water temperature is 53 degrees, still cold, but warmer than yesterday and warmer than the day before. And weather conditions for Jeanette's Pier today were mostly partly cloudy. High today was around 50, and likely partly cloudy conditions for this evening. Now, heading on down the coastline, we're going to go on past Coquina Beach and the Oregon Inlet Campground, past the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge, and head on down to Rodanth, where the waves are in the range of 2 to 3 feet as well, with that primary swell also coming in at 6 seconds and the secondary swell coming in at 11 seconds. Winds right now are out of the west at 9 miles per hour, which is an offshore flow. Air temperatures a touch warmer at 48 degrees, but not really too much different than temperatures up here near Jeanette's Pier. And then the ocean water temperatures, this is one of the indicators that we're looking at here at Rodanth have jumped up by about 4 degrees over the past couple of days. Excuse me, I have a nose. All right, pardon me. In any case, yeah, water temperatures right now 58 degrees at Rodanth. That's 4 degrees warmer over the past 48 hours. So again, more of that warmer water influence coming in off the Atlantic. And if this keeps up, it looks like we might be starting to hit the warming trend for this year. So we'll see. Let's hope that's the case. 58 degrees is rather warm in comparison with recent weeks at Rodanth. Weather conditions right now are partly cloudy with a high today of 50 degrees. We've already passed that. And for this evening, it's likely to remain partly cloudy as well, with those gentle west winds and those calm conditions, glassy waves, just very beautiful ocean surface. If you do get a chance to get on down to the coastline this evening, I'll bet you will see just beautiful ocean surface, beautiful skies for that sunset. And as you all know, those Outer Banks sunsets can just be absolutely spectacular. Um, I've gotten a few captures over on the Instagrams to share, and many of us locals here do love to get our pictures of our sunsets to share with you guys. In any case, we're going to head on south down to Buxton, where we find the waves are in the range of about 2 to a little bit more than about around 3.5, maybe a 4 foot wave there. I've got the waves basically in the range of about 2 to 4 feet at Buxton. So Buxton is the big wave spot for the Outer Banks right now, with a primary swell, solid 3.5 foot swell coming in at 7 seconds. Secondary swell at 11 seconds. Winds out of the west at 9 miles per hour, which is an offshore flow. Air temperature is just a tick warmer at 49 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean waters have warmed up to 64 degrees Fahrenheit. This is 5 degrees warmer than it was a couple of days ago. So warming up from 59 to 64 over a couple of days. You get that swing with that Gulf Stream moving in a little bit closer, that easterly swell pushing in, the warmer waters and those northerly winds helping to guide those warmer waters by enabling the swell to come in from the east over the past couple of days, and now the light winds also just allowing that warmer ocean current to creep closer to the coastline. Weather conditions at Buxton, partly cloudy. High today was around 51. Generally for tomorrow is expected to be warmer. We're going to likely see waves in the range of 1 to 3 feet across the Outer Banks as well. All right, so let's get to some climate features, some of the, well, yeah, climate features for the, or weather features, long range forecast from the Climate Prediction Center. I'll get my terms right, just, give me a second. But in any case, yeah, in the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook provided by the Climate Prediction Center, we are expected to see near normal to above normal temperatures here in the Outer Banks, much above normal temperatures for the U.S. Southeast centering on Georgia and Florida, and rather cooler than normal temperatures in the Northwest in association with a large trough dipping in. And so it appears that stormy weather also will tend to remain for a large swath of the U.S. with slightly above normal precipitation for most of the U.S. with above normal precipitation running from California in through the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys. Also worth noting out over Alaska, much warmer than normal temperatures as we get a large ridge pushing up through the Bering Sea and into the Arctic. All right, so let's get on down to some mesoanalysis. And for the 1 day convective outlook, we do have some severe weather potential over the next 24 hours for parts of Texas, Oklahoma, running into Nebraska, and let's see, it looks like Missouri here. So central U.S. under the gun for a moderate chance of, let's see, severe thunderstorms to include a slight chance of tornadoes, a rather significant chance of extreme wind, and a slight chance of hail, but a moderate chance of severe thunderstorms over the next 24 hours through February the 22nd. So for those of you out in the central U.S., please keep an eye to your local emergency management and severe weather forecasts from your severe weather professionals and your experts. Please do stay safe if any severe weather does threaten. All right, so getting into our forecast, we have a low pressure system that is developing just north of Texas. This is going to be our trigger for the severe weather over the next 24 hours for the central U.S., and this storm is going to track on off to the north and east. And then coming behind it for mid to late next week, another severe storm is expected to develop in the central U.S. and drag a powerful front behind it, which might bring in some powerful gale, possibly even storm force winds out of the northwest later on this week. So let's go ahead and run the model here. I'm just going to click through. We've got potential for severe weather running in through tomorrow morning through parts of Texas and Oklahoma. And then by tomorrow afternoon, the storm is focusing clearly on the Great Lakes as it heads through Minnesota, Missouri, and Arkansas. And then later in the day, running into the Great Lakes region of Michigan and Wisconsin, parts of Ohio, with rain to the south and snow to the north, and then focusing in on the U.S. Northeast as we get into the day on Tuesday, dragging a front behind it, getting a bit of a coastal low just offshore, which then runs out to sea by late Tuesday and into early Wednesday. And this is the new model, so I'm going to back up to the old model so you guys can see the storm system that is expected to develop over the central US starting on Thursday. So we've got a double barrel low pressure system moving out of the Rockies, joining up with a front, like a warm frontal zone pushed up by the heat over the Gulf into the Mississippi River Valley near Kentucky region with some thunderstorms and rainfall on Thursday. And then the energy starts to transition into the frontal boundary as we get into later in the day on Thursday. And the low really taps into that energy, dropping down to looks like 977 millibars with potential for very severe weather in the central US early Friday and bombing out to around 971 millibars over the central US. That's a very powerful overland low pressure system for the central US at this time of year. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. And then severe snows looks like just to the north of this system, getting into parts of Indiana, Ohio, looks like Missouri, Iowa, and then into the Great Lakes region in the Northeast and into the Northeast as we get later in the day. And a front draping behind and below the system, dragging severe weather through the Southeast. And as we get later into the day on Friday, we can expect some strong southwest winds pulling across the Outer Banks, possibly gale force, if this storm does form as expected. And then as we get into the day on Saturday, it looks like a major snow event for the U.S. Northeast. So Saturday, March 4th, might want to keep an eye on that. All right, so let's get down to the waves and down to the ocean surface. And right now we've got significant wave heights off the Outer Banks in the range of 3 to 5 feet, looks like 3 to 4, 3 to 5 feet. And these waves are expected to drop off slightly by tomorrow in, looks like the 3 foot, maybe 3.5 foot range. But nonetheless, decent waves tomorrow with the angle of the waves coming in directly from the east. So I think that the east facing beaches will tend to have nice surf, although small surf tomorrow. And then as we get into the day on Tuesday, the winds begin to pick up from the south and the south swell picks up, although with the south swell, the east facing beaches are likely to be less engaged. Some of that swell might get blown off. Let's look at the wind currents here. Actually, the winds look rather gentle coming out of the west at about 7 miles per hour. Looks like, yep. So that's not too bad. The waves might actually be relatively decent on Tuesday, even as that swell shifts around. Oops, let's get to Tuesday. Let's get back to the ocean surface. And then that was, okay, hold on. Yeah, the timing for the miles is a little bit different. So Monday and then Tuesday with that more southerly swell. And then as we get into day on Wednesday, the swell shifts back around to the east with larger waves, likely larger waves, and waves coming in directly from the east in the 4 to 6 foot range in the near offshore environment. This will likely translate very well to the coast by Wednesday if the models are correct. And I do want to look at the wind here. Wind here coming out of the southeast and with a swell not too strong in the range of about 14 miles per hour. So with that nice swell coming in from the east and that 14-mile-per-hour wind, the swell should be pretty nice on Wednesday if the wave and weather models are correct in their predictions. And then into the day on Thursday, we also have a very nice 5 foot swell in the near offshore environment um, heading right toward the beaches. So it looks like nice waves on Thursday as well. Temperatures this week in the 50s and 60s, so should be an overall nice week for surfing, especially as those ocean water temperatures warm up a little bit. I mean, 50-degree water temperatures aren't great, but still better than it has been. Lower 50s, maybe and up into the 60s as you get on down toward Buxton, Avon area. And I don't believe, nope, the model stops at Thursday. I'm going to stretch the model out to the end of Thursday here. We're going to just tick it on forward, see if we can start to get this influence of these strong southerly winds that are expected to pick up. And I don't know if we will. I know we don't quite get into that. But late in the day on Friday, we're expected to see some strong southwesterly winds starting to pick up. I'm going to look at the last frame here in the air model. So you can see the storm starting to form, or a powerful storm over the central US, and the strong winds starting to dig in across the Gulf. This wind field is expected to move off the U.S. East Coast, and I've seen some models that show 40-mile-per-hour winds with 68-mile-per-hour gusts for places like Buxton. We'll see if that shows up, but if we get that kind of system, we could have near hurricane force gusts out of the southwest for some of the south-facing beaches and some of the regions here over Hatteras. So something to keep an eye on as we look out into the future. We do have like a major wave event happening right now in the North Atlantic, and I did want to show you guys this craziness. It's been predicted in the models, and it did show up. So we've got 44-foot significant wave heights out here in the central North Atlantic. This system is going to propagate waves toward Europe over the next day as the center of the low heads toward Greenland. But look at this big old massive field of waves heading off toward the UK, Ireland specifically, toward Portugal, toward even the beaches of France, expected to be inundated with well, I say inundated, expected to be seeing some nice surf. So significant wave heights in the range of 10 feet for Ireland. I mean, that's not as crazy as what we saw earlier this winter, but nonetheless, some good waves there. And 6 to 7 foot significant wave heights just off of France, off of Portugal, looks like 13 to 14 foot, maybe just 13-foot significant wave heights just off. Well, so we'll call it 12 to 13-foot significant wave heights just off Portugal with this big wave maker and a series of big wave makers just moving up through the North Atlantic here, and even helping to provide some swell here for the US or parts of the US East Coast. All right, so thank you for joining me for this Sunday session of the OBX wave report. We did get some nice beach observations. Those have been posted up to my YouTube account. I encourage you guys to check it out. And thank you for stopping by and listening, and my best to you all. And as I always do at the end of my wave reports, I just like to ask you guys to please do everything you can to help defend our coastlines from the impacts of climate change by supporting the mass deployment of clean energy being wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles. These forms of energy are so much better for economy than fossil fuels. They're so much better for democracy than fossil fuels. And if we do mass deploy them rapidly enough, we can save our coastlines from the impacts of climate change driven by fossil fuel burning. Those impacts being rising sea levels, driven by melting glaciers, which is in turn driven by the burning of fossil fuels, which traps heat and melts the glaciers, and more intense storms powered effectively by heat, because storms are heat engines. They're convection engines, and the main driver of convection is heat. So as you have more heat injected into the Earth system, you can end up with more powerful storms. The peak potential of storms gets higher. And so you get weird, freakish, potentially extreme weather, like extreme hurricanes, extreme nor'easters, extreme precipitation. And here on the coastline, we're really concerned about the extreme hurricanes and the extreme nor'easters that can be fueled by fossil fuel burning, essentially. So thank you for joining me.